In response to the Lewiston, Maine mass shooting, a Fox News host pleaded with his colleagues to support common sense gun safety laws. Piers Morgan, who is occasionally one of the hosts of Fox News' The Five, is a conservative, but because he's not an American conservative, he, like the rest of the people in the world, essentially has a more reasonable stance on guns. So he brought that stance to Fox News on yesterday's edition of The Five, where normally, of course, Jessica Tarlov is the highlight. And just before getting to this clip, a side note, it is crazy how far right the American right wing has become, where someone like Piers Morgan is able to come out looking like some sort of liberal or something, which of course he's not in these sorts of debates. The same thing happens whenever he debates election deniers. With that being said, this was of course in response to Wednesday's mass shooting in Lewiston, Maine, yet another horrific tragedy. And here was Piers Morgan begging his colleagues to change their unreasonable view.
Americans don't really take to my accent or somebody called Piers lecturing them about how to lead their lives or about their culture or about their laws. I get that. But you made a point there that in England, we just don't have guns. I mean, hardly anybody has guns, including criminals, right? So I think we've had one mass shooting in like 5 years or something. You've had God knows how many this year alone, and it just goes on. It's kind of Groundhog Day. And there's the old, I don't think actually Einstein ever said this quote about the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. But actually, in this case, I would argue, as a friend to Americans, someone that loves the country and loves the people, at some point, you've got to do something more than you're doing. And I wouldn't use the word control. I think that's part of the problem with this whole debate. When Americans hear the word control, they think instinctively federal government control, and it alienates any chance of any compromise. Gun safety is the way this should be debated. How do you make it safer? How do you stop these loopholes, these guys slipping through the net? I mean, it's obviously a catastrophic failure. In Maine, they have yellow flags, not red flags. Why? Why don't you just have a red flag system all over the country? You have 400 million plus guns in circulation. 1 million new guns are sold every month in America. This problem is going to get worse, not better. And at some point, as your friend, as the great ally, I simply say, you've got to do something more to stop this. You can't keep having the Groundhog Day of these people with these semi-automatic rifles going into civilian areas and gunning people to pieces.
We have so much to look at in this segment. I'll show you more from the clip you just watched, where Jesse Waters jumps in with a pitiful response and then Piers Morgan shuts it down. We'll also get to the new Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, giving an awful take on this subject, and then a Maine Congressman changing his view on banning assault weapons and apologizing for not previously having the correct stance because of this taking place in his district. So stick around for all of that. But first, to respond to what was just said there, of course, Piers Morgan is exactly right. We keep living this same experience over and over again. And sometimes because of that, I don't even know what to add in terms of commentary, what new to say. We're in this insane cycle, a tragedy, the same talking points, and then the same lack of progress. And for the most part, it's one party preventing that progress. Now, we will get to, in this segment, a Democrat who was, or used to be, one of the rare Democrats who opposed some of these gun safety measures, but has changed his view because of this mass shooting. But aside from him and a few others, it's Republicans who aren't budging. Our communities are being terrorized. People are dying. I went through a bunch of information yesterday, so I won't do it all again, but just as a reminder to contextualize this, it's not a coincidence that there's a correlation between states with weak gun laws and higher gun violence, or the top 5 highest gun violence states are Mississippi, Louisiana, Wyoming, Missouri, and Alabama, all weak gun law red states, or that when states weaken gun laws, like implementing permitless carry, you see an immediate increase in gun violence. Or that the United States has more guns and less regulations on those guns than every other industrialized country. And, just so happens, we have more gun violence than those countries. Yes, we need to invest in making schools safe and in mental health treatment. And also not ignore the one variable that makes the U.S. an outlier, the guns. But again, I've done segments on this a million times and walked through that data, so I won't do it all again here. We have to change something. There is a movement preventing that from happening, and that's what we need to call out. Now here's more from this clip.
Can you?
As your friend.
Yeah.
Respectfully.
Of course.
We have these guns because of you. Because of your country.
I know.
Because of your king.
I know.
And we haven't had that problem with the king since then.
I know.
With respect, as your friend.
Respectfully, here's my response. I cannot buy in the United States of America a Kinder Surprise chocolate egg. They're banned. They're banned on safety grounds because the little toys inside them might choke people. A British Prime Minister, I won't say which one, but one in the last few years, told me he was stopped at LAX because he had some for his nieces and they confiscated them because they were a health hazard. Now, I simply say, you're a country of many freedoms and many regulations. How about regulating guns in the way that you do Kinder Surprise chocolate eggs?
Okay. With respect, do forks make people fat?
Yeah.
Okay. No.
Oh, well, they do. They do, don't they?
Guns don't kill people.
They do.
People kill people.
Guns also
Forks
kill people.
don't make you fat, Piers.
Guns do kill people.
Forks don't make you fat.
It honestly takes so much energy not to lose my mind when I hear people brainlessly repeating those talking points. Then why are all those facts the case that I previously listed, Jesse? Whether forks make you fat or not, a bunch of unregulated guns leads to more death. And he's so cavalierly, and so many people do this, just resort to these bumper sticker talking points that don't mean anything. They're not connected to any actual policy conversation about how we save lives. It's just this vague distraction from the core facts of the situation. And it exemplifies a deep lack of caring about the issue. And then you have to talk like a child to explain this. So if someone wants to hurt people and they have a knife, how many people in a public place do you think they'll be able to kill? Okay, now picture someone with an AR-15. Probably a lot more people in that same situation, right? Yes, of course, the person is still responsible for the atrocity, but we can do things to prevent so many people from being harmed, so many of these mass murders, minimize the harm that's being done, while we're also working on investing in mental health and preemptive solutions and so many different things as well. And I don't think anyone actually believes these talking points. The only way you would actually believe that is if you think every citizen should have access to any bomb they want, any tactical nuclear weapon, a machine gun, because weapons don't kill people, people kill people. Yeah, but different sorts of weapons in the hands of those people can do different levels of damage. Everyone knows that, so I don't even understand what that is other than dishonesty. Moving on, the new MAGA Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, had this to say on the issue.
Well, already, though, you're immersed in Democrats, and this happens with almost every shooting incident. The immediate call by the left in this country, we need more gun laws, we need more legislation. Yep. What's your answer to that?
At the end of the day, the problem is the human heart. It's not guns, it's not the weapons. At the end of the day, we have to protect the right of the citizens to protect themselves, and that's the Second Amendment. And that's why our party stands so strongly for that. I agree with the comments of your guests there. This is not the time to be talking about legislation. We're in the middle of that crisis right now. But I just want you to know, and I want the American people to know, that all the members of the House here are deeply concerned about the families involved and everyone. And we pray for the law enforcement officers that are doing that hard job tonight that most people do not have the bravery to do.
Before responding to Mike Johnson, as a reminder, Sean Hannity, I did a video on this yesterday, was the one who yesterday, in response to the mass shooting, said that his security plan in these sorts of situations is martial arts. He takes martial arts. So that's his plan. That's his solution. Ridiculous. But then that's another talking point we hear a lot. Hey, we're in the middle of a crisis. Right now is not the time to talk about legislation. Then when? Because of the situation that's caused by our lack of solutions, we're always in the middle of a crisis. There's always mass shootings going on a daily basis. Not all of them as many people die in as the one in Lewiston, Maine, but we're constantly experiencing mass shootings in this country. So there's always a crisis that you could point to say it's not time to talk about solutions because of the problem still being present. At some point, we need to urgently respond to this issue. That's what you would do if you actually cared. Always pointing to the current crisis to say that that's why you don't have to respond proves that you're not actually motivated to solve the issue. And then he made the point that it's about the human heart, not guns. Right. So then you're saying that the reason we have more tragedies is because you just think the American heart is that much worse than every other country. At least some people, though, are moving over to the correct stance on some of these issues. Here is Democratic Congressman Jared Golden, who represents the district of Lewiston, saying he's had enough, and despite the state he represents being a big gun state, he is now for banning assault weapons.
Now, we could be in full control, among many other misjudgments. I have opposed efforts to ban deadly weapons of war like the assault rifle used to carry out this crime. The time has now come for me to take responsibility for this failure, which is why I now call on the United States Congress to ban assault rifles like the one used by the sick perpetrator of this mass killing in my hometown of Lewiston, Maine. For the good of my community, I will work with any colleague to get this done in the time that I have left in Congress. To the people of Lewiston, my constituents throughout the 2nd District, to the families who lost loved ones, and to those who have been harmed, I ask for forgiveness and support as I seek to put an end to these terrible shootings. In the days to come, I will give everything I have to support this community's recovery. Thank you.
Credit to him for saying that, making that shift so publicly. The devastating truth, though, is we can't afford to wait for every person to be personally impacted by these tragedies for change to be made. So hopefully he inspires other people so they don't have to experience it, so we can act before it gets to touching their lives personally. And now one of the rare Democrats that oppose some of this is on board, and that leaves a massive part of the Republican Party opposed to essentially all measures we could take to make people more safe on this issue. And then they'll say it's because they'd rather focus on mental health. But then, as I broke down in depth yesterday, when they're asked to vote on increasing mental health investments, they so often vote no. So they block action on gun safety, say it's because they care about mental health instead, then call mental health investments too much government spending or something when it actually comes time to make that sort of investment. So then we have the situation that we currently do. Before you go, don't forget to become a member at lukebeasley.com/membership to get access to a daily bonus show, entire bonus show Monday through Friday exclusively for our members, talking about all these stories that you'll never hear on the main show. You gotta go get access to that. Plus, follow me on Threads at Luke Beasley Official, Instagram at Luke Beasley Official, Twitter or X at Luke P. Beasley, and sign up for the Beasley Brief, a daily morning newsletter summarizing the previous day's events by going to lukebeasleyshow.com/brief. And I'll see you all next time.